Hello friends, and welcome to Halloween Horrorfest 3, Season of the List, Week 1, and this week we're talking about sequels. Now I want to clarify right from the beginning what this category entails. We are talking about good sequels, and that is distinct from two different possible interpretations of this sequels category that I think could come up, which it is not, which are reboots. This is not including any reboots of franchises. That would be a separate category, completely distinct from sequels. And it is not bad sequels. We are not talking about campy, fun, bad sequels. We are talking about...
No fun to be had.
That's right. We're not having fun this year. Only serious movies. We're talking about good sequels, which means generally movies that are thought to be like able to stand on their own, as good as the original, or in some cases better than the original. So that's what we're talking about. It's not reboots or bad movies. Those are definitely going to come up in the future, so I wanted to be clear. That way, when they do come up, nobody thinks that we're reusing a category. It will be a distinct and independent category in the future. So, without further ado, our movies for this week are, on October 1st, we're going to be watching Evil Dead 2, directed by Sam Raimi.
On October 2nd, we'll be watching Ouija Origin of Evil, directed by Mike Flanagan.
On October 3rd, we're watching A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors by Wes Craven.
On October 4th, we're watching Final Destination 3, directed by James Wan.
On October 5th, we're watching Aliens, directed by James Cameron.
On October 6th, we're watching Scream 2, directed by Wes Craven.
And on October 7th, for our palate cleanser of the week, we will be watching Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, directed by Roger Gosnell. So, just to get into it, Josie, what's your favorite movie on this week?
Can I pick the palate cleanser?
Sure,
or do
it's
I have
totally...
to pick one of
No. We've generally tried to make our palate cleansers fit in with the theme of the week, so I think it's totally fine to pick the palate cleanser as your favorite movie of the week.
Yeah, I would pick that or Aliens.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think those are good picks. Why do you like Scooby-Doo 2?
I mean, what's not to like?
It's a classic.
I think it's even better than the first one, which is a controversial opinion.
That is a controversial opinion. Spooky Island is pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good, and what's his face, Mr. Bean, is really good in that. But I don't know.
His name? Rowan Atkinson.
Yes.
Yeah.
You remember it.
He is good in that.
But yeah.
But then Scrappy-Doo comes in and it's just like, I don't want to watch this anymore. I hate Scrappy-Doo.
And then also, the second one has Seth Green and Alicia Silverstone. And there's just a lot more monsters, naturally.
Yeah,
and
it's not just those weird demon things.
And the effects aren't as, glaringly bad because they're supposed to be, campy Scooby-Doo villains, whereas
so they're
you
in,
have,
silly
the
costumes.
weird, monsters in the first one that are a little bit distracting.
They, isn't the story... We heard this on a podcast where they had done the monsters and they were way too scary.
Yeah.
They had CGI'd the monsters in and they were really scary. And then they did test screenings with kids and the kids were terrified. And it was who are we going to play this to? Who's going to watch this movie? So very shortly before the movie released, they had to go through and redo the CGI on all of the demon monsters in Scooby-Doo 1, which is why they look so bad the whole way through that movie. They look terrible.
Yeah,
so that's what happened.
Yeah. By the way, the podcast that we're talking about is Horror Queers. Very, very good podcast.
Yeah, check it out. It is extremely long form and only for people who really like horror movies and cinema. Each podcast is 2 hours long and they do a full plot recap of every movie. So bear that in mind if you're going in. But it's great if you are interested. So definitely go check it out. It's on Spotify and I'm sure other things, but we listen on Spotify.
What's your favorite on the list?
My favorite on the list, I think I'm going to go with Final Destination 3. It's a close contest between Final Destination 3 and Evil Dead 2. But I really like the Final Destination movies as a franchise. And I think Final Destination 3 is one of my favorites. Final Destination 3, I think, is the one that I remember the most clearly, just because it was, I think, on TV a lot when I was growing up, and so I saw it many times, the edited for TV version, but, that version.
Is that the roller coaster one?
It's the roller coaster one. So Scream 3. Final Destination 3 is the one that begins with a roller coaster accident where the roller coaster goes off the rails. It has Mary Elizabeth Winstead in it. It is a well-known and beloved movie. But the Final Destination franchise as a whole is great. And the sequels all are pretty good, other than Final Destination 4, which is called The Final Destination, which is really bad. Don't watch it. It is a really bad one. But the movies are great because Final Destination 1, establishes this really interesting concept of, death coming for you if you manage to escape it, and you've got these Rube Goldberg-esque deaths, although the ones in the first one are not that crazy when you get back to it, other than the teacher who dies in a really crazy fun way. But the rest of them are not that interesting. But then with the second one, you get a much meaner movie where it's almost as if death is playing a game where he's trying to kill these people in the most creative, crazy way possible. And it gets to be very mean. So you see a lot of very violent, brutal deaths throughout the movie, which is an interesting way to go about it, and it takes itself seriously. That's the one that is a huge pile up on the highway. There's a logging truck, and the logs come loose, and then there's a massive accident on the highway at the beginning. That's the triggering event. And then Final Destination 3 takes everything to a much more fun direction. Where it's look at the crazy ways these people get killed. It's so silly. But it takes itself much less seriously. It's a much more funny film. And then Final Destination 4 is garbage. Don't watch it. Final Destination 5 is the one with the bridge collapse, which is probably the one that people our age are most familiar with, because that one came out in, I want to say 2009 or 10, which is probably when we were getting old enough to be hit with the marketing for those. I remember the marketing for Final Destination 5. So that one's more our age.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was going to completely pivot off, so if you want to talk about Final Destination.
I was also going to pivot off, so go ahead.
Oh, great. On the same wavelength. But I was going to say Evil Dead 2 is my close second, specifically because of one scene, which is, and if you watch the movie, it will stand out. There is a stop-motion ballet scene where a headless corpse does ballet out in the woods, and it's claymation stop-motion. It is the creepiest scene. It is so creepy.
You're just also notoriously afraid of stop-motion.
Stop-motion is the scariest thing on the planet. It is so scary. But just watching this dance scene is the creepiest thing. I also love Evil Dead 2 just because it is such a true sequel. It is it came out a couple years after Evil Dead. It's same director, Sam Raimi, same lead, Bruce Campbell, playing the same character, Ash, doing basically the same exact thing as the first movie. So it's a fun sequel.
What I was going to pivot off of is that you have a controversial opinion for one of the movies on this list.
I do. So some of the picks that we make in advance of watching the movies, usually as placeholders, because it's hard to pick 28 movies for a month and not reuse anything from the previous month. So, we kind of crowdsource from articles and lists and things to get ideas for movies that we can put on the list. In every list that is about good horror sequels, Ouija Origin of Evil appears. Everyone is Ouija Origin of Evil is this good sequel. It's an enjoyable movie. It's really good. You gotta watch it. And it's directed by Mike Flanagan, who has done a bunch of really good horror movies. He's most probably known for his recent Netflix shows. He did The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass. He did that one, The Midnight Club or whatever. I don't know what that one is. I didn't finish watching that one. Anyway, Flanagan has done a bunch of these that have gotten a lot of high praise. He's done some movies recently, too, that were very popular, but I don't really remember what they were. He did Don't Breathe or something like that. I don't remember.
That was older.
Yes, 2016? Yeah.
Yeah.
Around that time. Yeah, where she's in the house and the guy's around the house. Whatever. Anyway.
Is that the same one I'm thinking of?
I don't know. But moving on. Everyone, all of these reviews are like, Ouija Origin of Evil is really good. And on this podcast that we listened to, they also did like a very positive review of Ouija Origin of Evil. And people were like, it's great. It's so good. I watched Ouija Origin of Evil 2 weeks ago. It is not good. It is not good at all. It is just like a classic 2010s horror movie. It is not interesting. It does not do anything cool. The monsters aren't cool. They don't look good. The framing isn't good. The acting isn't very good. The effects aren't good. Like, I just didn't think it was a good movie.
I cannot weigh in, as I was busy while you were watching this movie, but...
Yeah. But
I trust your judgment.
if anybody out there watches Ouija Origin of Evil, please let me know if you think it's good, because you're wrong, and I'm going to correct you on that. No, I would love to have a conversation with people who think that it's good. I firmly don't think that it's good, but maybe I'm wrong. I think that it's on this list because the original Ouija movie was so unbelievably bad that, like, it is a competent movie. Like, it is a movie. There is a plot that's coherent. Stuff makes sense from start to end for the most part. Like, it's got motion, it's got a couple scary moments. Like, it is a movie. And I think the first one is actually not a movie. It's just like a weird hodgepodge of clips that they put together. So I think that's the difference between these, is that this one is actually a movie. People were like, oh my god, it's so much better. Even though it's not good on its own. I think that's it. Our only other fun fact that we had queued up is that James Cameron is the director of Aliens.
Right, yeah.
Which is fun.
His only other credit before Aliens was Piranha 2. So.
That could have been on here. That's a sequel. We should have put Piranha 2 on here.
Well.
I don't know if that's any good. I'm pretty strong doubts that Piranha 2 is a good movie. But Aliens is a good movie, widely regarded as a very good sequel.
Yeah.
It's quite different than the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Alien is a very, like, it's been on the list previously. It's an isolation horror stuck on is that the Nostromo?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it does a good job of, like, building out this world with these characters in, like, the same way that the first movie does.
Yeah. Well, it takes the IP and, like, gives it a lot of opportunity for, like, new direction and growth, because it is just like a different movie. It's like, it's an action movie. You've got a bunch of new characters. It's a new setting. You're, expanding, like, everything. And I think that kind of directly feeds into what the actual, like, franchise has become now, where it's all over the place, man. You got all kinds of stuff that is in the Alien franchise. So, yeah, that's our sequels week. We hope that you'll tune in, join, watch some of those sequels. If you do, please let us know what you think. We would love to hear that people are watching our movies and that people have thoughts about them. And we will see you next week when we talk about Subversion.